let's talk about the future of Dune. So if you haven't seen Dune Part 2, please do yourself a favor and go watch that movie. Trust me, the hype is more than real. Dune Part 2 does the impossible task many filmmakers try to achieve in their careers. Make a sequel that's better than the first. And Dune not only does that, but it joins the list of greatest sequels of all time. I truly believe that Dune is the Lord of the Rings of this generation. I called it back when I first saw the first Dune movie. I called it. Dune, from what I heard from people who've read the book, can get very weird. It's a book that can easily get very weird. And at first I didn't know what they meant until I saw the original Dune that came out in the 80s. I liked the movie, and there is some stuff I didn't like about the movie. I think this movie was meant to be a two-parter, and back then that wasn't really a thing. So in that original Dune, you see the events of Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 all smashed into one singular movie, and I think some of the moments do lose their effect. Dune Part 2 does take some deviations from the book. For example, in the movie Dune Part 2, Paul Atreides' sister isn't born yet. She kind of just talks to her mom through visions, and even to Paul, right? And she's played by Anya Taylor for 30 seconds. And in the original Dune, the 1984 one, I think that's the year, she's an actual little girl who is extremely creepy. And in the books, from what I heard, she's the one responsible for killing the Baron. She actually kills the Baron. It's not Paul stabbing the Baron with the knife, it's actually the little sister. And she does it in a very creepy way. She laughs as the Baron is dying. Super creepy little girl. And I think Dennis saw that some things were just a little too out of place in the world. So what does that mean for the future of Dune? Will it get weirder? Probably. And I think Dune Part 2 was kind of like the door for that. If you really compare Dune Part 1 to Dune Part 2, Dune Part 2 gets crazier. I mean, people are riding sandworms. Things are getting more insane. And when Paul Atreides drinks the water of life, things get more unhinged. But Dennis does a great job. I call Dennis, the director, like he's my best friend. But Dennis does a great job at keeping it grounded, if that makes sense. Not really grounded, but he keeps the same atmosphere that was already established, and I think he's gonna do that for Dune Messiah. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts making big changes while still telling the same story. I think that's why he's the best director to do this film. I think he's capable of telling the same story while taking some liberty in changing some stuff. And Dennis talked about it too. I saw some press videos where he was asked about how he tackled Paul Atreides' character based on Frank Herbert's stories in the books. He said that Frank Herbert, the author of Dune, was very disappointed how people perceived Paul based on the first book. People, when they read the first book back in the 60s, thought Paul was the hero. And the author was very disappointed because he meant Paul to be a cautionary tale. When Paul becomes the emperor, it almost feels bittersweet. It's like, yes, we defeated the Harkonnens, but at what cost? At what cost? War? So I wonder if Dennis will do this for the next Dune books. Because I keep seeing people are not ready for the Dune books that get extremely weird. And there is 6 books total. This was just the first book. Part 1, Part 2, that was just the first book. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 more books. Now, I don't think Dennis is gonna direct all of them. I think he's gonna do the James Cameron thing where he's probably gonna direct the first 3, 4, and then pass it on to someone else. And hopefully the whole cast stays. But who knows, that may not happen. Maybe we end the story in Dune Messiah. I'm not sure, because from what I heard, there is very big time jumps between books. We may have even a scenario that's similar to Star Wars, but kind of in reverse. Imagine if the prequels came out first. We see Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and then we take a pause, right? We have a great trilogy right there. We take a pause and then go into New Hope. That may happen. Who knows if Dune Messiah and Children of Dune may be combined and maybe split into a similar situation where it's part 1, part 2, because Dune Messiah is one of the smaller books. Or who knows, and Dune Messiah might just be one book, one movie, I mean. If Dune Messiah is as good as the second one, doesn't have to be better than the second one, but if it's just as good as the second one, I think we might have one of the greatest trilogies of all time, comparable to the Dark Knight trilogy, the original Star Wars trilogy, and even the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I wouldn't be surprised if Dune Part 2 sweeps the Oscars, but it's too early to call that yet because there's a lot of great movies coming out, so we'll see. In the meantime, we're hoping that we get news for Dune Messiah, when it could come out. I'm guessing it'll come out in 2026, maybe 2027. We'll see. Hopefully the wait is not too long, but if they need to take their time, please do, because the world needs another Dune masterpiece.